An off-year election is not indicative of what happens next.
Following gubernatorial victories for seemingly moderate Democrats in Virginia and New Jersey, and a mayoral win for a self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist in New York City, which stance will the Democratic Party take going into the 2026 midterms, and what lessons are to be learned for the Republican Party following November's drubbing?
I think the lesson for the president is that it's not enough to diagnose the crisis in working-class Americans' lives. You have to deliver on addressing that crisis.
Who can argue with New York City's mayor-elect? He's right. Polls showed that the economy was by far the biggest issue, and Mr. Trump's approval rating on inflation and the economy is underwater.
What scares Republicans across the country is the fact that we will actually deliver on this agenda.
President Trump blamed Republican election defeats on the government shutdown and the fact that he wasn't on the ballot. And if he really believes that, then the GOP could be headed for further trouble in 2026.
If Republicans do not walk away from this election understanding that they have a major problem, that they are now being blamed for the hangover of the Biden economy, which they have not fixed to the degree that they could, they are missing a canary that is warbling so loud in this coal mine.
I will not stand by silently while you attack Virginia's workers.
In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger won by nearly 15 points against winsome Earl Sears, flipping 7 traditionally Republican counties, the biggest Democratic rout in years. And a similar picture in New Jersey, with Mikey Sherrill's victory over Jack Ciattarelli taking back the 5 counties that Mr. Trump flipped in 2024.
Man, with this vote, you guys just scream from the rooftops.
Outcomes elsewhere also suggest a rising backlash against President Trump. There were wins for Democrats in Georgia's statewide utility commission, while in Mississippi, Democrats picked up a couple of state Senate seats, breaking a GOP supermajority. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom's referendum on Proposition 50, which redraws congressional district lines and could net Democrats 5 seats in 2026, easily passed.
Tonight, after poking the bear, this bear roared with an unprecedented turnout in a special election with an extraordinary result.
What is this enthusiasm for the Democrats and the president's low approval rating foretell for next year? Because I think it means big trouble for keeping the House, and it might just put the Senate in play.
They need to be looking at this and questioning Trump's tariffs and what they're doing for economic uncertainty and costs out there. What they do with reconciliation, because their last bill did not include enough pro-growth policies, and what they're going to do about healthcare, because that was another big concern on voters' minds. It showed up in the polls.
Arguably, the biggest win of the night was that of Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani in New York City. At 34 years old, he not only becomes the city's youngest mayor in more than a century, he's also the first Muslim mayor.
A mandate for a city we can afford.
Ever since Mike Bloomberg left office in 2013 and 2 decades of largely good governance came to an end, New York City has gone rapidly downhill. Bill de Blasio let crime return with a vengeance, and a succession of Democratic governors raised taxes on multiple occasions. Today, homelessness plagues subway trains and the streets, and housing is unaffordable for the young as rent control hampers development and upkeep. These problems are among the reasons that Mr. Mamdani won, that traditional Democrats have repeatedly failed to address, even with their progressive policies. But while Mamdani supporters voted for hope and change, they may get more of the same if he tries to implement policies such as free buses, limits on policing, tighter rent control, and much higher taxes, especially those on businesses and the affluent. It's important to remember that the top 1% of taxpayers contribute about 40% of the city's income tax revenue, and already many are leaving.
I do not agree with many of his views, but running a state government or a city government is very different. It's about making sure that the garbage gets picked up, the streets are safe.
Governor Kathy Hochul is in a particularly challenging spot. Should she run for re-election in 2026, she'd need to defeat a primary challenge from her second-in-command, Antonio Delgado, who'll run at her from the Mamdani left. Should she follow suit and move leftwards in an effort to counter the challenge, It would likely play to the GOP's advantage. November 7th, Elise Stefanik announced she's running for governor.
Look at what she's just done. She has put jet fuel on Kami Mamdani, and she owns all of his heinous positions that will make New York less affordable and make New York more dangerous.
It's a Democratic Party dilemma that's mirrored on the national stage too.
Mamdani has now placed himself above Congress as a national leader, and he hasn't even taken office yet.
What they learned last night is that anti-Donald Trump does still sell if you do it in the right circumstances. And they learned that talking to voters about affordability mattered. But this split in the party is still very, very real. And the progressives are going to take this and they're going to run with it across the country. But it isn't necessarily going to sell in areas outside of New York City. And I think that to take the Mamdani victories and even these others and to think that they've now solved their question of what this party looks like going forward would be a mistake.
It's something Mr. Trump is already taking advantage of.
If you want to see what congressional Democrats wish to do to America, just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York. We skipped socialist and we put in a communist instead.
Democrats won big this November because they focused on the cost of living and in most races avoided the leftist cultural cul-de-sacs of the Biden years.
Lowering costs, keeping our communities safe, and strengthening our economy for every Virginian.
In 2024, voters gave Mr. Trump another term because he pledged to lower costs and raise real incomes. But his economic record is mixed at best, and inflation is stuck at 3%.
Get your act together on prices, dump the tariffs, or minimize them if you can't dump them all together. You know, minimize the ICE raids and focus on prices and the economy, or you're going to lose.